One of the more talked about releases as of late has been Jazmine Sullivan's Heaux Tales, an EP that dropped right at the start of the year. I didn't get round to it. I feel like I did want to listen to it, and then I just never got round to it, or I only listened to a couple of tracks or something like that, because it came out really early on, and I was pretty interested to see what it was going to be like, because I've heard some of her stuff before, and I do think she actually is really quite a talented vocalist particularly. I think that's her strongest asset as an R&B artist, which I think is a really important thing, because sometimes R&B singers in the modern day can really put you to sleep. Like, there are so many boring singers out there that have put out some really mundane, dull music that's gotten really popular, but for me, I'm just not entertained by it at all. I don't necessarily care for a lot of what's being pretty mainstream. Not you know, it's not a blanket statement for everything. There's always the odd exceptions, but I think R&B in the mainstream for the past 10 years has been at a really low. And I think R&B as a genre is like fantastic, so I think it's sad to see that it's been like that. But yeah, at the moment, we're seeing a lot more talk about this EP, despite the fact it came out earlier in the year, because it got Album of the Year by Pitchfork. So that was something that intrigued me the most, because I just did not see this coming at all. Their Song of the Year as well was a real big shock to me. I just saw both these picks were real left field compared to what we've seen them give over the past few years. And I just was pretty surprised to see, you know, some left field picks get you know, these acclaimed accolades, these high praise to be Album of the Year. And I was just like, okay, I definitely got to check this out properly now, because I need to know what it's going to be like. And I've come out of it thinking, is it really all that? I'm not sure. I'm a bit conflicted on this. I think there's so much to like about this, and I kind of want to start with the positives, because I think there is a lot of greatness that sits in these 32 minutes. I've already alluded to one of the things already, and it is the vocals. Like, that is just the most standout immediate thing you notice on the first song, because there are a few tracks in, like, you know, spoken word things that happen. But yeah, the first song, immediately, Jazmine is just a stellar singer. Her vocals are going toe to toe with any singer at the moment right now. I'm going as far as going, that's as far as I'm going. I'm going really big with this praise. I think she is absolutely fantastic. And I don't think it takes much of a, you know, a music nerd or a musician, or, you know, I have a great ear for music to notice how good of a singer she is. I think even the better vocal performances come later on this EP, actually. I think one of the best is Lost Ones. I think the Mariah-isms come through a lot on this track. And maybe Alia, who was a singer, obviously, who'd passed away many years ago. I think those kinds of vocalists are inspiring Jazmine on tracks like this. You know, classic R&B that was oozing in the late 90s and 2000s, that just had that really, like, classic feel to what you expect and come to expect and know, sorry, from the genre R&B. And I think she really pulls from that on this track. I think lyrically it's an interesting track as well. I mean, she's talking more about how, like, you know, someone has kind of gotten away, and just kind of wishing that, you know, they're not going to have as much fun anymore because she wants that person back. It's a bit of a selfish thought, but I guess there is that sort of feeling whenever you break up with someone. There is that kind of like, ah, shit, what are they going to do without me around? I don't want them to be happy anymore, because I want them to be with me. And I want to be happy, but I want them to be happy, and I just don't know. You get the general gist of the feeling that she's singing about here. It's pretty standard, I think, for breakups and things like that. Yeah, it's a good track as well. It's just really powerfully performed vocally. I think Pick Up Your Feelings is a pretty catchy R&B track as well. I think this track goes for a more modern flavour in the R&B world. Definitely feels more contemporary than Lost Ones. I think these two tracks offer very different sides of R&B. Pretty standard lyrically, this one though. Yeah, Pick Up Your Feelings. It's kind of got that kind of like modern social media talk. I feel like you'd see someone say something like that on social media, and it gets like a 200,000 retweets and 800,000 likes. Doesn't make the track any worse or anything like that. I just think it's a pretty standardly written track, and I think it's good overall. And then this is where the album just starts to kind of shake me away a little bit, because I just kind of start losing it with some of the lyrical themes and some of the way she tackles topics, because I just don't know if I'm really all for these kinds of lyrics. Perhaps I'm just not here to relate to them, and I'm sure someone in the comments will probably tell me that if they do love this EP. But I don't know, man. I'm not feeling some of this. It starts really with Ari's Tale, which I'm assuming is Ari Lennox's actual voice that's voicing this. She is on the next track immediately after. Obviously, it probably is there, isn't it? And she's kind of like talking about men and things like that. And then she kind of ultimately sums everything up by saying, but you know, the dick is the answer, the penis, the man's dick is just that good that he's just won me over. And it's just, as soon as it pops up, I'm just like, that's the answer. I'm like, fair dues, but I was just a bit like, could be a bit more subtle. And then Put It Down is basically the actual, you know, voice note put to life. It's the song, it's what she says into a song, and it sets up the song, I suppose. But again, lyrically, it's just all a bit like, oh, it could maybe word this in a more sensual way that wouldn't be just so on the nose and harsh. Because I feel like the word like dick, or abbreviating it to the D, is just a bit like cringe to me. The frustrating thing is, though, is that it's just so catchy. It's such a catchy track, and I'm not even that big of a fan of Ari Lennox, but I think they actually join together really nicely with the vocals on this track. But yeah, I just was a bit underwhelmed by the way she's phrasing things on this one. Again, maybe because I'm not relating to it, because I'm not out here looking for the D, but I still would expect someone to write a song a bit more potently than this, and it kind of gets worse as well. I mean, the subtleties just gets thrown out the window on a track like On It, where she says, I mean, again, it's about what you expect. I mean, sitting on it and spitting on it as well. Once again, the subtlety here is just uncanny, I guess. It's a filthy track that she just sings in the most like classic soulful way. Like, it really sounds like, you know, Etta James stepped into the studio and she started to sing about like penis and stuff. Like, legit, the vocals are just so like 70s. It's just kind of funny actually hearing the juxtaposition of these kinds of like classic, I guess, traditional vocals with this very non-traditional lyrical track. It just kind of, it makes you kind of go a bit like, oh really, that's what she's singing about. And I'm not like, you know, prude or, you know, frigid or anything like that, but it's just like subtlety. It helps sometimes, you know. Price tags is again just where I get a bit lost, and I start to notice actually there's a theme, and it's not anything that she's kind of projecting onto us with how she's portraying things. It's just my interpretation. And I think by this track I start to realize that this album is very shallow. Like, a lot of the things she's talking about aren't really about any of the attributes or any of the personality traits that make a human. It's all of the extra added bits and literally bobs in some tracks, as I've already mentioned, where she's focusing on those, and that's the most important thing. And this is where the track hits a nosedive, because she's now talking about how a man having money is what makes her pussy wet. She says it like that as well. I mean, you probably aren't surprised considering some of the other lyrics I've read out. This is probably one of the least shocking ones that she says, but it just irks me because I just don't really feel like she's valuing the right things, to be honest. Anderson .Paak is on this one though, and ooh boy, he comes to save the day with his lyrics. This is one of the funniest lyrics I've ever heard, maybe ever, because of how out of pocket it is of how he words it. So, forget it, mama told me to put the kid in, so I did it. But baby came out black as Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction. I'm light-skinned, my granddaddy is Indian, you fucking with my lineage and dividends. I just couldn't get over that when I read that. I was just like, oh man, what this is so out of pocket. What is he talking about, man? Anderson .Paak, bro, you killed me with this one. I guess it brings out the other side of the story, the male perspective on this one, in the most bizarre way you could ever imagine. Yeah, man, those lyrics killed me off. A few more voice notes come as well. We get the infamous "money makes me come." Now, it's not just "money makes my pussy wet," which is what Jazmine said, but on a different, tale, because they're all tales. A lady comes through and says that, money just makes her come. Now, if that's not materialistic, then tell me what is. I would say the only worthwhile or necessary or actually introspective or interesting voice notes or tales is Rashida's tale, where it's much more personal. She is essentially admitting her mistakes because she talks about how she got into a relationship with another woman. It was all going so well, and yet she made the fatal error and the huge mistake of cheating on the girl that she was in love with, and the relationship obviously inevitably broke down. Well, I say obviously, actually, sometimes that doesn't kill off relationships. I've heard some stories. I've heard some stories, bro. But anyway, it's your typical, I've really made a huge mistake. I've accepted that I did something so awful, and now I've had to face the consequences because I fucked this up. And, you're not going to be like, oh, you did the right thing, because obviously cheating on someone, I mean, it's not great, is it? We can't exactly commend someone for doing that. But the thing I would commend her for is just kind of accepting that she did the wrong thing and understanding where she went wrong and how the mistake is something that she will learn from and never do again. Now, this to me is a tale. This is a tale. None of the other tales really offer that much insightful, aside from just being about sexual things and being addicted to money and 9-inch penises, I guess. I don't know. This album just isn't for me, is it? I guess I'm not interested in that. So I guess it's just not for me. I really don't know. And it hits the worst end of the scale for me on the other side, because I thought this track was set up to be something spectacular. Again, musically, vocally, it's stellar. You can't fault her at any point in this album with her vocals. She is just wow. But this track I thought was like, okay, yeah, we're kind of getting onto a more relatable idea. She's talking about how she can't wait to be rich. And we've all had that, situation, especially, when you've been a person, because I certainly have, where you're just worrying about money. You've just kind of been brought into life in a poor circumstances. You don't have any money backing you from your family. Like, I know what it's like, man. I know what it's like, trust me. I mean, I'm not going to go into a whole spiel about it. I certainly related to that feeling of just wanting to feel comfortable financially one day, and you can make it yourself and you can try and do your best, even if, you've kind of been dealt a bad deck of hands. A deck of hands? You've been dealt a bad deck in your life. What am I talking about? You know what I mean? I was like, okay, yeah, finally something, yeah, this is generally relatable. Maybe, some of the other tracks I just don't quite relate to. I'm not really feeling it, but this is the one. And then, like, the last leg of the track, she's basically talking about how she can't wait to be married off to a millionaire, and then she'll have all the things that she wants. And I was just a bit like, talk about materialism, but she's just taking it to a new level. Like, she's not trying to inspire the listeners or inspire maybe other women to go out there and get that fame or get that financial stability maybe yourself, and you can do it on your own, and you can be the strong woman that could do that on your own. No, you just have to marry a millionaire. That's how you get rich. That's the way to do it. I was just like, that's what this track boils down to. The inspiring hope of hopefully one day marrying a millionaire, which is incredibly hard to do, because, I mean, how many millionaires have you ever met? It's like, I was just a bit like, that's where this album sours me, man. This is the kind of attitude that just lingers throughout the whole thing. And I was just like, nah. So I'm mad conflicted on this EP. Like, there's so much to like about it. And I guess if you ignored the lyrics, this would be a really good listen. But I just couldn't really shake off a lot of the attitudes that linger throughout this EP. For me, I just didn't really agree with a lot of what was being said. And she says it all in such a serious way as well. So it's like she genuinely believes what she's saying in tracks like, The Other Side. I'm just a bit like, I don't know, it could have been such an inspiring track, and it ends up just being, someone else can save you in the end. And most of the other tracks I've outlined anyway is not being my kind of thing lyrically. Subtlety wouldn't go amiss, Jazmine. Subtlety. It would do you wonders going forward. Although maybe that won't get you Album of the Year from Pitchfork. but it would get me, me happy, just me, only one person that you don't care about. So yeah, I don't know whether to say this is a good EP or not, because I'm just so conflicted. I really can't tell. I think overall I'm like meh on it because of the lyrics that rub me the wrong way a lot of the time. They sour me. They ruin the brilliance of the tracks, because production-wise, vocally, everything's just right, but not really feeling it lyrically. So yeah, I don't know if this EP is all that, but maybe if you can give me a perspective on the lyrics that I would maybe change my mind over, I could definitely see, you know, a different perspective. And maybe I'm missing an extra layer or an extra element of the lyrics here or something like that. I'm happy to be, happy to accept that. Maybe I'm wrong here, but not really feeling this one. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. As always, have a good day. You too can marry a millionaire one day, you know you can. Subscribe and goodbye.